When I was first diagnosed, I really didn't feel like I had cancer. It was a really bizarre thing to have this diagnosis put on me because I have 3 small kids. I was leading what I felt was a healthy, active life.
Up until the 2023 diagnosis, Sarah had a very healthy lifestyle. She tried to eat clean for the most part, tried to stay active. We've got 3 small kids, 5, 7, and 9, and so she stays very active with our kids. This tumor on her neck grew so quickly in March. I mean, it went from like we didn't notice anything there to like a baseball in her neck in a month. As a husband and as a father to 3 kids, it's very scary. Just imagining my bride having to go through the chemotherapy that the doctors ended up recommending, or even losing her. These are the thoughts that would go through my mind a lot, which motivated my furious research.
So when I found out that cancer was more aggressive and the oncologist presented chemo as the only option, I was really sad. I couldn't imagine having my quality of life stripped. I couldn't imagine having my body overtaken by toxins that would make me feel sick when I had been feeling so good up until that point. I knew that I didn't want the cancer to keep growing and start to affect my airway and get more severe, but I just was really crushed thinking that chemo was the only way to destroy my cancer, but it would be destroying my whole body at the same time.
Lymphoma is a blood disease, so it shows up in different ways, but the only way that's really visible on Sarah is on her neck. Everything else is kind of, well hidden.
After I found out that I was recommended chemo, that was the only option, I joined a Facebook group called Living with Follicular Lymphoma, which is my diagnosis. And I just saw so many people that had so many side effects. And these young moms like me would just say, a year ago, 2 years ago, I finished chemo, but I still have fatigue every day and I'm just dragging my body every day. And I just would just cry at night. I just did not want that to be my story. I wanted to be there for my kids and live my normal life.
I knew that Sarah was going to be very hesitant towards doing chemotherapy. So that was, part of the research is I knew that, I thought she would do it if she needed to, but I knew that she was very against the idea of doing it and just really didn't want to do that to herself.
I didn't feel like there were any other alternatives. I basically was just given 2 different chemo drugs, and both of them had negative side effects that would only really put my cancer on hold for 2 to 7 years. And then it was expected that I would have to go through another round of chemo and keep this cycle going, since lymphoma is something that is not a tumor cancer. It keeps coming back, is what I was told. You're going to have to do many rounds of chemo throughout your lifetime.
When it's asked what other options are there, and they just sort of look at you like, what are you talking about? I told you what the options are. You can have, it was 3 different chemotherapy types that they offered actually, and they said, we think you should do this one, but you can choose. You have freedom, medical freedom. You can choose one of 3 horrible options. And this one we think is less worse than this one, but it's still horrible. And one of the crazy things that, we talked with him about the CAR T-cell therapy, because I knew that this was the most hope for an actual cure, because they told us the chemotherapy 100% of the time will not cure you. It will put the cancer into a temporary remission and it will come back, and that's guaranteed. So I'm like, okay, so we have to poison you, every 2 to 7 years for the rest of your life, but the CAR T cell therapy was showing significant signs that one day, oncology is going to call this a cure. We don't know for sure, but it's showing significant signs that they're going to say this is a cure one day. Yet they wouldn't give her access to it because the FDA has these guidelines, and they don't allow you to have the CAR T cell therapy unless you have, failed your whole chemo treatment twice. So we're talking, we can get this in, 5 to 15 years. Well, we went and got a second opinion at MD Anderson, which is supposed to be the best cancer hospital in the world. We thought if we're going to get CAR T cell therapy in the U.S., that's probably where we have the best chance because they're supposed to be the best. They're the researchers, and of course they said no too, and they said here's your options. And I remember when I asked them. Because like I said, I'd done a ton of research, so I knew a lot about this, and so they recommended the bendamustine, and I said, from what I understand, the bendamustine destroys your cells to the point that your T cells are ruined, and there's a high likelihood that if you have bendamustine in the future, if you get CAR T cell therapy, it will be ineffective. Is that true? And he said, yes, that is true. So you're required to go through this bendamustine chemotherapy before you get the CAR T cell therapy, but the bendamustine will make the CAR T cell therapy ineffective. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This makes no sense. This is the most illogical thing ever. Why is it? Why are they forcing you to do this before you do this? If this 100% of the time fails, and this, you're showing signs that maybe you're going to call it a cure. Why do you have to jump through those hoops? And he said, well, it's FDA guidelines and it's driven by insurance. And so I was not going to take that for an answer. And so, again, I guess by that point I had already known about the Immunotherapy Institute. We had set up for a call with Dr. Perez.
If you would like to continue watching Sarah's powerful testimonial, please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to get notified when we upload the second part. If you or a loved one would like to get more information about CAR T cell therapy, please visit us at immunotherapyinstitute.com or click on the link in the description.